Hello everyone. In today's video, we're going to be finishing up our series on the lovely DHC-2 Beaver with landing. And this is kind of interesting because a lot of times I just plop the plane on the ground. I'm kind of done with the video sort of thing. But this plane has too many weird things going on it, and I kind of appreciate them, so I'm definitely going to take advantage of their different kind of ways of getting down. So the book itself, again, when I refer to the book, the thing I'm referring to naturally, of course, is our POH. For those of you who need a link to that, you can actually see that down in the description below. So this is a neat plane. And has basically three different ways to get it down to the ground. Well, anything's a way to get it down on the ground, but getting it down safely. The first method, of course, is conventional landings, and we're going to start with a conventional landing there. And the other thing it does is it has what they call a minimum run landing. And now, of course, I was looking up, what is a minimum run landing? A minimum run landing is if you're an ace and you're an ace and you're already an ace, would you like to land the plane in, 1,000 feet or less kind of a thing? And by 1,000, that's actually exaggeration. You can land significantly shorter than that. And we're going to take a look at those. Of course, the other landing method we could do too is a wheel landing, which requires a very, very high speed approach for this plane. You'll actually find it very awkward in flight sim because of your head position here. And that's sort of part of the fun, as they like to say, kind of a thing. So let's go ahead and grab the POH as we're coming into our nice gentle approach here. Let's go ahead and get it. Shouldn't be a flying and trying to look through a book at the same time. That can't be safe, kind of a thing like that. Here we are. So we can see we have a bunch of different stuff here for this go around. Notice it's slowly full takeoff power. I appreciate that. After the landing, minimum run landing. We'll get to that in a second. Here we are. So one of the things it'll say is it'll say trim as required. The other thing we'll notice here is it'll bring up the idea of landing flaps. Now we have a couple different settings here to our flaps. You'll notice we have takeoff, we have landing, we have full. Generally, we're going to land with landing flaps. And now it seems a little weird that we have a whole extra notch of flaps. You actually have another notch of flaps. Keep in mind the flap control in this one, it's like a little hydraulic valve. You pull it up and you push it down to control its position. So you can actually pull it one more time and you get this like extra notch there, and that's actually your landing position. Now, when you look out the wing here, you can see those are pretty long flaps here. So another thing the book talks about, the POH, is we want to make sure we do full RPM. We're going to make sure our mixture is rich, and we're going to be approaching at about 80 miles per hour. Now, the conventional landing on this airplane is relatively straightforward. We're going to do a good old-fashioned three-point landing here. That's going to be a plop landing is the best way I like to describe it. The weird thing with this plane is if you're doing a safe plop landing to a stall, you are going to get a beep, 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 probably the last couple inches to your landing there. It's just kind of the nature. The other thing you're going to notice here is the fact that during our landing, you're going to see that the back wheel will actually touch first, and that's actually perfectly fine with the way this plane was designed, which I find different. So what we're going to do is we have a crosswind. I'm going to go ahead and let my left wing down. I'm going to go ahead and push my right foot forward just a tiny bit as I make my way down to the ground here. Again, completely conventional approach. I'm not doing anything untoward here. I'm just doing my normal thing here. Pretty good. Kind of keeping an eye on my speed. Keep in mind my nose is down right now. We need to land at that magical, like I said, 10, 11, 12, 13 degree angle there. So go ahead and give it a little bit more, about 80 miles an hour. Like I said, couldn't be easier to get this thing down. And don't worry, I won't do what you were thinking. I'll do that next. All right, coming down here again, compensating for that little crosswind. Throttle here is everything with this plane. Now, when you cut the throttle, the plane stops flying. There we go, reduced to 70. And we're going to get into the three-point attitude a couple inches off the ground. That's three-point right there. Use our throttle if we get low, and we're down. Nice. A little more two-wheel than three-wheel, but that's okay. I'm going to go ahead and gently apply full power. Get us back to the takeoff position. Left aileron. And up we go. Just like that. So as you can see, one of the things that was a little weird about that landing was the amount of throttle work that was involved there. It really, really will surprise you how hard you have to work the throttle on this plane on descent. And that's something that the book will describe in detail. Because basically they're saying that the drag is so high in this thing that when you're coming in, there's no coasting. It's just adjusting the throttle to control your up and down. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and hit our right traffic pattern here, which is typical for this particular runway here, and we'll make ourselves another approach. All right, looking pretty good. Let's go ahead and get our flaps down. We'll get them down into the landing position. Finish up our approach. Like I said, it's very awkward to set the flaps in here. It's a little bit tricky here. So we're going to go ahead and line ourselves up again. We're looking for about 80 miles per hour on this one. We still got that crosswind. We'll go ahead and a little bit of right foot here. And we'll stick our head up just a tiny bit to make it a little bit easier to get that landing attitude figured out. Now, one of the things, like I said, it describes using trim excessively. So make sure you're using a lot of trim here. Really, really work that trim to get it all set up correctly. See, I'm coming in a bit fast, so I'm just going to lift my nose up just a tiny bit. That's all it took, and now we're good to go. Now I can use my throttle again for the purposes of controlling them up and down. Looking pretty good there. Again, that wind is all over us today, which makes it a little bit trickier. So we're coming in. Everything's looking really, really good there. Love that big number 2. I'm looking forward to that nice juicy hamburger with those nice steaming French fries. This is special kind of ones. And I mean, I just can't wait to get down on the ground and to park this plane after my little adventure in New York over the weekend. Everything's looking good. Oh no, there's somebody on the runway. Go around. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to smoothly apply my power. I'll go back up to takeoff power. And I'm going to start gently retracting the flaps. Don't forget to make an adjustment to your carb heat. I'm cranking on my carb heat control right now. And we're just going to get right back up to 80. Slowly bring ourselves up to takeoff flaps. And we're just going to go right to climb flaps there as we maintain that nice smooth. Again, you have a ton of horsepower in this plane. So definitely take advantage of it, but monitor your engine on the way up there. You can see that we got a little high on the RPM, but we've got our max continuous power set perfectly. All right, let's go back around and do one of these strange minimum run landings the book talks about. All right, here we go. So this is going to be interesting because we need to basically use full flaps, and we need to maintain a final approach speed of 65 to 68 miles per hour, which is basically 10% over stall. So this is going to be different. So I'm going to go ahead and get the flaps all the way down. You can see the full flaps on this thing are very intimidatingly low. And we're just going to slow down. Now, just like we saw in our previous landing approaches with this particular airplane, we have to keep in mind that we're definitely going to be using the throttle here to control our rate of descent. So again, I'm just going to let the nose come up just a little bit more. I'm just going to confirm all my instruments are set correctly, compensate for the crosswind. And you can see this is about 70 miles an hour. And I'm telling you right now, this nose is heavy. Getting a little low there. That's fine. Just bring that up. Looks good. We're going to bring in some power here. Normally, you have much, much more torque reaction from an engine like this. We don't quite get that in flight sim like we do in some of the other sims out there. Too bad, though, because that nose will go and basically twist as soon as they jam on the power like that. Oh, boy. There we go. So there's your 65 to 68 miles per hour. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to keep the plane at the appropriate, if I could talk today, appropriate landing angle, and we're just going to use the throttle to get us down on the ground. So this is going to be awkward. Believe it or not, we're in a wheel landing configuration right now. Down a little bit. There's that lovely runway 2. Looking pretty good. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. That's 69. A little bit fast. A little bit fast. I'm going to pull that throttle to bring that nose up just a little bit. Come on. Slow down. There we go. That's better. Oh boy, I don't like this. I do not like this. Again, using the throttle for rate of descent here. Oh boy. Oh boy. So we're going to maintain it until the flare out, and then we reduce the throttle according to the book. That's a very short landing. And there's the bounce there. Sometimes it happens. Well, that's a short distance. If I had a little bit more elevator authority here, I could have made that even shorter. But you can see here that that's the lovely 1,000 footer right there. And we settled down pretty much a couple feet off the numbers. And I'm not going to lie, I think that was actually the safest landing I had so far. So once we're on the ground, of course, we're good to go. One of the nice things about the Beaver, of course, is we do have the ability to actually lean the imaginary mixture here. We do have the ability, of course, on this Beaver to basically steer the tail wheel, which is something a lot of tail draggers do not have a capacity to do. So it makes it a little bit easier with us. The way the book describes it, of course, is if you drum on it really, really, really hard, like if I stomp on the left brake and kind of kick the nose over sort of a thing, it's not going to give us any issues because basically it will switch to castering mode once it exceeds 25 degrees. Kind of handy as far as that goes. And again, enjoy our nice little kind of setup here. We don't have to worry about oil dilution or anything silly like that. Go ahead and be very, very gentle with this plane. Again, a little bit of elevator here really makes a big difference in keeping that wheel grounded. All right, going to go find our parking spot here and kind of get everything all nice and shut down. Looks pretty good, looks pretty good. I'm liking that. Of course, in the real world, what I would not do with the plane is I wouldn't come all the way down here and take the right. One of the things you don't see in the sim that is present in the real world with this turn is just how stupid small this taxiway is. And again, I can handle a tiny taxiway, but one of the things you'll observe here is as I go around this corner, you'll see that my wingtips are over the grass. And when you have a low wing plane, it makes you a little bit nervous. So for me, I always go up there on the right where the 2 helipads are. Dun 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 dun. Whoopsies. I guess I should have been watching where that guy was walking, but Tower hasn't been talking to me very much recently, so I guess it's not my problem. I also got a pretty good parking spot here. I'm going to over right by midfield hangar 4. Looks good. So a couple things we got to run through is we have to make sure we clear the cylinders and I get all that set. So I'm going to come down here and we're going to hit the radio switch off, which is fine. I like how everything gets kind of darker. It's a nice touch. It's a nice touch. I also love the presence of just like where stuff is. Again, we were using that one earlier. So what we're going to do is we're going to run the engine up a little bit here. And the goal here is to basically clean out the cylinders. We're going to go up to about 1,500 revolutions per minute, comrades. That'll be a pretty good one right there. I like that. And all we're going to do is we're just going to pull the mixture back slowly. And the whole plane will do the rumbly, and basically come to a stop. Looks good to me. This aircraft, remember, propeller starts at 0, and we can, of course, cut the throttle as well, and it's good to go. Last couple things we need to take care of is secure any switches that we did not pop off. That's our battery master. We're going to make sure our fuel tank selector is set back to the off position. We used a little bit of fuel today, nothing too bad. Not the greatest on gas, by the way, this plane. It's about 2.5 hours in the air. We can go ahead and fix our carburetor heat there. We probably want to leave that closed, too, again, to filter that air. But other than that, enjoy.